To simply wake up every morning a better person than when I went to bed. I never had an occasion to question color, therefore, I only saw myself as what I was, a human being. I always wanted to be someone better the next day than I was the day before. If I'm remembered for having done a few good things, and if my presence here has sparked some good energies, that's plenty. So much of life, it seems to me, is determined by pure randomness. I wouldn't change a single thing, because one change alters every moment that follows it. We all suffer from the preoccupation that there exists, in the loved one, perfection. I was born 2 months early, and everyone had given up on me, but my mother insisted on my life. My father was a poor man, very poor in a British colonial possession where class and race were very important. I had chosen to use my work as a reflection of my values. I have always been a learner because I knew nothing. So it's been kind of a long road, but it was a good journey altogether. So I had to be careful. I recognized the responsibility that, whether I liked it or not, I had to accept whatever the obligation was. That was to behave in a manner, to carry myself in such a professional way, as if there ever is a reflection, it's a positive one. I learned to hear silence. That's the kind of life I lived, simple. I learned to see things in people around me, in my mom, dad, brothers and sisters. I decided in my life that I would do nothing that did not reflect positively on my father's life. My father was a certain kind of man. I saw how he treated my mother and his family and how he treated strangers, and I vowed I would never make a film that would not reflect properly on my father's name. I was the only black person on the set. It was unusual for me to be in a circumstance in which every move I made was tantamount to representation of 18 million people. Since I couldn't actuate the things that I wanted to do, the only weapon I had was to say no. I know how easy it is for one to stay well within moral, ethical, and legal bounds through the skillful use of words, and to thereby spin, sidestep, circumvent, or bend a truth completely out of shape. To that extent, we are all liars on numerous occasions. I couldn't adjust to the racism in Florida. The impact of the black audience is expressing itself. They look to films to be more expressive of their needs, their lives. Hollywood has gotten that message, finally. My mother was the most amazing person. She taught me to be kind to other women. She believed in family. She was with my father from the first day they met. All that I am, she taught me. I did not go into the film business to be symbolized as someone else's vision of me. But I always had the ability to say no. That's how I called my own shots. Mine was an easy ride compared to Jackie Robinson's. I am not a hugely religious person, but I believe that there is a oneness with everything. And because there is this oneness, it is possible that my mother is the principal reason for my life. I'll always be chasing you, Glory. History passes the final judgment. I was fortunate enough to have been raised to a certain point before I got into the race thing. I had other views of what a human is, so I was never able to see racism as the big question. Racism was horrendous, but there were other aspects to life. I wanted to explore the values that are at work, underpinning my life. There is not racial or ethnic domination of hopelessness. It's everywhere. I had 2 roles for which I compromised. The journey has been incredible from its beginning. I wanted to look at them because I feel, internally, that I am an ordinary person who has had an extraordinary life. To be compared to Jackie Robinson is an enormous compliment, but I don't think it's necessarily deserved. I knew what it was to be uncomfortable in a movie theater watching unfolding on the screen images of myself, not me, but black people, that were uncomfortable. I lived in a country where I couldn't live where I wanted to live. I lived in a country where I couldn't go where I wanted to eat. I lived in a country where I couldn't get a job, except for those put aside for people of my color or caste. I cannot be understood in 3 minutes. A good deed here, a good deed there, a good thought here, a good comment there, all added up to my career in one way or another. I couldn't adjust to the racism in Florida. It was so blatant. I had never been so described as Florida described me. As a man, I've been representative of the values I hold dear. And the values I hold dear are carryovers from the lives of my parents. I didn't run into racism until we moved to Nassau when I was 10 and a half, but it was vastly different from the kind of horrendous oppression that black people in Miami were under when I moved there at 15. I found Florida an anti-human place. I want my great-granddaughter to have a fairly good understanding of the world in which I lived for 81 years and also the world before I came into it, all the way back 100,000 years, to the beginning of our species. I'm going to quit writing. I'm not a library. I come from a great family. I've seen family life and I know how wonderful, how nurturing, and how wonderful it can be. An appreciable number of directors have shifted to lower-cost films, allowing them to be satisfied with a more modest return. I'd seen my father. He was a poor man, and I watched him do astonishing things. I was a gift to my mother. She was a remarkable person. God or nature, or whatever those forces are, smiled on her, then passed me the best of her. I don't very often read novels. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.